Howdy, my name is Brian Foley. I am a Galveston criminal defense attorney and DWI attorney. We're here to talk about, can you beat a blood test? Can you beat a DWI case if they took your blood? Well, the answer is yes, we do it all the time. Was the traffic stop unjustified, right? That is the first thing we want to look at. If we're trying to beat a DWI blood case, the best way to do it is to get all of the evidence of the blood test excluded from that evidence. The first way to do it, and the first thing we look for, is the traffic stop. Did they say you were weaving within your lane, or maybe even leaving that lane, but it was not done in a dangerous way? That's some of the best ways to get a traffic stop, what we call suppressed, and then all the evidence would get suppressed after that. Another way is looking at consent. If you consented to a blood draw during the case, was that consent coerced or forced? Did they do something other than just reading you what's called the DIC-24? It's a document that starts off saying you're under arrest for an offense involving acts alleged to have occurred while operating a motor vehicle or a watercraft while intoxicated. You can actually also get arrested for flying or operating an amusement park ride while intoxicated. Those aren't listed on the DIC-24. Not sure why, but in any case, they're supposed to read you that document. And if they don't do that, or they do it but then threaten you in some other way, they could potentially coerce that consent for the breath or blood test, and then we could get that result suppressed again. And then another thing we'll do is look for problems with the search warrant. Let's say you refuse to give a breath or a blood test, but then they go to a judge and they get a search warrant for your blood. They may not have included all the necessary things in that search warrant. There's a principle that says we look just at the four corners of the search warrant. No additional information, even if the officer knew it, will be imputed into that. And then when a judge signs it, if there wasn't probable cause in the search warrant, even though the judge signed it and they got your blood, well, then a judge later on, maybe a different judge, could suppress the evidence again. Those are the first things we're going to look at to try to beat a DWI case with blood analysis. The next step for a DWI case, if it's headed to a trial, if we can't work out an agreement that our client is happy with, it's going to work with their job, with their life plans, with their career plans, if the state only wants jail time or conviction, we're going to go, and if we can't get the blood suppressed, we're going to look to see if there's an error in how they tested the blood. So a lot of people don't know, they don't actually test your blood. They test the air that is above your blood when it is confined in a vial with something called Henry's Law, that says that the alcohol concentration in the air above the blood and within the liquid below will equal out. So what they do is they use a gas chromatograph. And on our slide here, you can see over on the left-hand side, that's the gas chromatograph. It's this is just sort of a technical diagram of it. They look a little different. They kind of look like a little computer. And they don't just test one sample at a time. In real life, they're testing like 50 samples at a time. And if you ask a lab analyst how many times they've messed up a sample, they are never going to admit to messing up and swapping samples. But I'm sure this happens at least sometimes. In any case, what they do is they take a carrier gas, which is some type of gas, not gasoline, but like a air, type gas, and they press it through a flow and pressure regulator through a column, eventually to a detector, and then your sample gets put into an injection port that goes, and it injects your sample of air through the column along with the carrier gas that pushes it through the column. The column is just a tube, and it's wound up in a coil, and that column will force any substance inside, including the alcohol or other substance, and push it through the column at a certain rate. Okay. So what they do to calibrate these machines is they will take a known sample of alcohol and say, okay, well, how long does it take a molecule of alcohol to get through the column, right? They'll know what it is. They time it and they say, okay, well, now we'll inject your sample and we'll look at the time that alcohol was supposed to come through this column, how much came through of what substance. And the detector tells the computer data analysis, it all goes into a computer and it says, okay, well, this is the reading we got on the detector at the time that we know alcohol is supposed to come out of the instrument. this is what we think the alcohol result is. So you see, there's a lot of different ways and a lot of different things to go wrong. If the column is not operating properly, if the carrier gas is causing carryover from one uh, sample to the next, for example, if there's residual alcohol being left over, and that's what we call the carryover principle, is saying like, well, if the guy behind you was a 0.30 and you were a 0.06, was there a carryover of maybe a 0.02 that bumped you up to a 0.08 in your blood test? And so we'll look for things in the gas chromatographs, which are issues with the computer data analysis. We'll see, is this instrument recording all zeros when nothing is supposed to be coming through? Or is it having that residual carryover? Can we see a sample before yours or after yours that's having issues? Or when did this instrument go down last? They have to keep meticulous records of these machines that are being kept by either the Department of Public Safety, the Houston Crime Lab, the Galveston Crime Lab. All these different things are things we're going to consider in analyzing the blood testing issues. If we can find something in the way these things were done, we can win a trial, we can negotiate a better plea, and we can get a great result for our client. The last way that we beat DWI with a blood test, we've got other methods here is the slide name, but this is kind of a culmination of different things. We want to try, if we can, to do a pretrial diversion. If we can't find a way to get the case dismissed regularly, then perhaps entering into a type of probation where the case is dismissed at the end and can be expunged off your record. That's what a pretrial diversion is. It's not to be confused with a deferred adjudication probation or a straight probation. Those things avoid jail time, and they avoid technically what's called a conviction, but they can even be used to enhance future offenses to DWI second and third. You might as well have just been found guilty and put in jail, because even on a first DWI, even if you did jail time on it, you could still get it non-disclosed from your record, just like you can in a deferred adjudication probation. But government agencies, the police, are always going to see it. So the only way to avoid that is what's called a pretrial diversion. That is something we would consider after building mitigation evidence. Mitigation evidence is the type of evidence that we can collect as a defense to say our client is worthy of a second shot, of having a clean record. Things like letters of recommendation, there's classes and treatment. Sometimes we have our clients go to AA classes, like if it's a DWI third or second, and we're trying to show that we have been rehabilitated, and we're working on that as well. And then the last thing we do to make sure that our client gets the best result possible, if any lawyer says every case is getting dismissed on their docket, they're lying to you, right? Some cases don't have the best result that we want, which is that full dismissal. But every case has a best result based on the evidence in that case. And the way we get that for each of our clients is doing an individual case analysis. What factors are going to be the ones that are important in your case? The most important thing in a DWI case is normally the video. Then we move to the blood and the breath tests. And then we move into the mitigation evidence. So making sure that we're paying attention to each of those phases, that's how we always get the best result that we think is available for each client. And every case is different, but we do get good results for our clients, and most of our clients are happy at the end. If you have any questions, you can check us out online at GalvestonDWIattorney.com or GalvestonCriminalAttorney.com. Check us out on Google, and you can look at our reviews there. Otherwise, thanks again. This is for educational purposes, and we appreciate you guys paying attention. Check out our next video when we drop it next. Bye-bye.